Over the last few months, the acetone had done its job, expelling all water from her body to the very last drop. And yet, a shiver ran down his spine. This was the final phase. The room was cold and sterile, the walls clad with white tiling, a stainless steel table installed at the rear for the chemicals and silicone. Next to the plastic tubs were the tubes and the wooden box. He stepped closer, but could not stop himself from glancing away. This was the least flattering stage of the process. The eye sockets were empty, the face collapsed. Muscle and bone were the only things left inside the sheath of skin. But although the outer covering lay loose around the skull, he thought he perceived the beauty he would now set about restoring. Her long hair was protected from the liquid by a tight-fitting cap. She would be so beautiful with her hair tresses about her perfect shoulders, he thought. Like an artist, he felt the love for his work well inside him with every step he took toward completion. It had been most surprising to him the first time. He simply hadn't prepared himself mentally for the transformation into such a magnificent and wondrous specimen. He knew, of course, that the body consists of 70% water, and that the same amount plus an additional 10 to 15% would vanish in the acetone bath. Nevertheless, he had been astounded, and it had been some days before he again felt ready to return to the cellar and complete his work. On the other hand, he could never in his wildest dreams have imagined the euphoria he'd feel when at last the silicone had hardened and he had finally returned her comely curves to her, perhaps even having exaggerated them slightly to accord with his taste. Stunned, he had stood there feeling like the creator of the universe. He stepped up to the stainless steel table and picked up the tubes. Lifting the heavy tubs of silicone onto the cart, he pushed it over to the shallow bath. 2 tubes ran from each tub. He glanced up at the clock. It would take less than half an hour to fill the bath. When it was done, he would put the lid in place and switch on the suction unit. Then all that was required was for her to simply lie there as the silicone gradually seeped into her cells and filled her body. With a small knife, he sliced away the protective caps and broke the seal, allowing the silicone to flow. Slowly and reluctantly to begin with, though he had made sure to warm the substance so as to quicken the process. But then it began to run, a thicker fluid than water, gradually pouring into the bath, spreading itself to the 4 corners. The whole operation required patience and the greatest of accuracy. His women were small masterpieces, perhaps even grand masterpieces. He closed the door now, ready to devote himself entirely to the blonde. He owed it to her. Chapter 1. No, I'm afraid not, Fru Mealing. As far as I'm aware, there's still no news about your daughter, Louise Rick said into the phone with regret. She was sweating in her training gear and had just gotten back to Police HQ after 6 hours with the rest of the negotiation unit. The exercise had been planned for some time. The theme was suicide. At 7 in the morning, Louise had met the others out at the city's Zealand Bridge, and although by now she was reasonably experienced, she was never exactly going to enjoy dangling from a bridge, trying to talk a fictional suicide candidate into giving up their bid to depart the world. It had been a good day, nonetheless, and Thiessen, who was in charge of the unit, had heaped praise on her, telling her she was getting better all the time. Next up was the Stroa Beltsbroen, the monumental suspension bridge that spanned the Great Belt between the islands of Zealand and Foon. I certainly do understand your concern. You haven't heard from her in months. Louise sank back in her chair and unzipped her jacket. The office was boiling hot, the air stale and clammy. The radiator was on full blast to banish the winter's cold, and the grimy floor was streaked with slush from